Food was always the thing throughout my life that always interested me the most, and I'm naturally inquisitive. Naturally just wanted to find out why things taste good and why certain things are delicious and certain things aren't. My name is Neil Rankin. I'm the owner and head chef of Temper Restaurants in London. I don't believe that I ever have it right, and I don't believe that other people necessarily have it right, and I've always questioned it. Even when I worked for 2 Michelin-star restaurants, I would be like, oh, I don't know if this is as good as it can be, you know? I mean, I was rubbish back then. Meat in general, I just didn't think anybody could barbecue in this country, and nobody was really doing meat the way I wanted it to be. There's a very sort of regimented chef's thing where people get a steak and they go, oh, I've got to get these bar marks, I've got to go and you get these things in a lot of bistros, and you'll get that sort of X sort of thing. I hate that. When Eat My Dust was suggested, I naturally went to something which was a sort of seasoning or a rub, and then looking at it from a sort of natural perspective, I went to stuff that could be forage or something that came from the natural terroir of what I wanted to season. Cornwall's basically on our doorstep in London. We've been using meat and fish, and most of our vegetable supply has been coming from there for the last 6 years. And I understand more about that region, food-wise, just through speaking to farmers and meeting some of the growers in that area. Morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Welcome to Cornwall. Let's go and pick some heather.
Mike Destromilo is our supplier of wild ingredients. He has a vast knowledge about where these foods come from.
So the bell heather, as you can see, is starting to dry naturally, which is good for you.
Yep.
But I found a little patch over here that is nice and fresh, and we'll start picking that.
Beautiful.
What we do is we prune the bush so that there's enough left for the birds and the bees and for regrowth. So it's about sustainability.
So who else is picking this stuff apart from trendy London chefs?
The locals pick it, but the main people that pick it are the wildlife. The birds and the cattle that graze on the moorlands, they eat it, and it's very good for them.
And local people, what are they using this for?
For infusions and things like that, adding to honeys and things. Yeah.
Heather honey. Beautiful. I'm looking for something with a lot of colour and vibrancy for the plate. It's a very black dish. I wanted something a little bit herbal. I wanted something from the land. And just about the dynamics of what things are eating. And I just sort of believe in that. I believe that, that things that grow near the cattle and things like that have some sort of flavour symmetries with it.
A natural connection between, what's growing in the wild and what we're eating. And if you marry them up, they work very well together. What are you looking for next?
So I want some coastal herbs. I want something really salty and minerally.
Natural salts.
Natural salts.
Perfect. No, just the place. Okay, we should find some rock samphire down here.
I think you're already starting to see it.
The earliest reference to rock samphire was by Shakespeare, who wrote about how one of the most dangerous activities, collecting rock samphire off the cliff faces.
And why is it growing here specifically?
Well, it likes growing by the coast because it gets the moisture from the sea, so it's not dependent on whether we have rain or not. And it has a beautiful coriander flavour.
That's delicious.
Yeah. And you see what you got growing right next to you. You have salty fingers.
These are the salty fingers.
Yeah,
and these are native only to here, you were saying?
They are. And they've just flowered, so they've changed colour. Normally they're a nice dark green, but when you bite into them, it's like biting into a wave. It's like a moisture with a slight hint of saltiness.
Super nice. There would always be a time when this was people's livelihoods, and this is how people ate and people connected to nature. We're so disconnected from that these days. And this is everywhere around here. I mean, there's so much of it.
It is, but as you can see, this is quite accessible. Some of the sites are really quite tricky. You are risking life and limb.
This is accessible.
This is more accessible than some sites, yes. Whoa, careful,
Jesus.
See? Very easy pickings.
Accessible. I'm creating a product today called burnt sea dust. So we've got a 60-day dry-aged piece of Hereford beef here, which we've aged in-house and butchered on site. We've got a nice chunky ribeye cut here from near the sirloin end. So it's got a really nice big fat layer, and then that's just going to go straight on this hot plate. A little bit of the fat layer first, so you're cooking in its own beef fat. You want to hear that sizzle. And then what we're doing is we're moving it around, but you're just doing it by ear. So you're listening for where it's noisy. You can almost do it blind. And then once we've got enough color in it, we're gonna move it to a slightly softer location where it doesn't have so much heat and it's just gonna gently cook out. For the rest of the dish, we're gonna make our dust. So we've got the rock samphire that we picked the other day. Tastes a bit like coriander, that flavor, really intense. We've got the sea aster here from the same area, and we've got sea beet. And these obviously have a really high salinity and minerality. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make an ash out of these things. So we're gonna stick it straight on that fire and burn it till it's black. And then we're gonna sieve it out and use that as a salt. And then the other thing that we picked yesterday was this heather. Has that flavor that game birds, why game birds taste so gamey and why I think British meat tastes so gamey. There's a flavor of that in this, and we're gonna mix this with the salt. So now these are properly burnt. Just kind of shaking through. As you can see, we get the ash through the bottom. We've got our dried seaweed. Just gonna crush up a little bit. And then along with our dust, we're just gonna pound this out. Okay, so we've got this really nice and ground down, and this is our dust. So on here, I'm gonna take a handful of this. Some sea salt, this dried heather. And just a few slices of the steak. And here we have it. We've got our aged beef here, cooked medium rare. We've got our burnt sea dust, and then we've got a bit of salt with our dried heather. On the day-to-day basis, things that gives me most pleasure is just seeing people enjoying my food. That's the end goal of anything we do. People's enjoyment, people's happiness, and people getting something from your food that they otherwise didn't expect.